Tonight on News 5 Live, the House of Representatives meets in Butane. Prime Minister Barrow lashes out at butane importers, threatening to take their stock as he amends legislation to impose stiff fines as the price war rages. A badly decomposed body is found floating at sea this morning near the port of Belize Limited. 5 days later, and still no sign of Butane resident Densmore Bowman. A family in Sacut says a skull found in Melchor is not that of a missing teacher. A Benque family is left homeless after its rented house is burnt down in a fire. And a former prison inmate is seeking damages for harm and unnatural sex by another prisoner. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Smart customers, this is your chance to win
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, December 4th. I am Marlene Cuellar. A San Pedro family traveled to Belize City today for the difficult task of identifying a body. Reports spread quickly this morning that a badly decomposed body had been located in the sea not far from the port of Belize. The Cobo family had reason to believe that one of their own, Michael Cobo, who has been missing for more than a week, had met a horrible death and his body disposed of. The body was taken to Boral Boom, and at news time, the family's worst fears were confirmed. Here is News 5's Isani Caetano.
The badly decomposed body of a male person was discovered floating not too far away from the shoreline this morning in the vicinity of Port of Belize Limited. The corpse, wrapped in a cover of some kind, was weighted down by what appears to be a concrete block. The individual's hands were also bound together. Sometime after 10 a.m., police responded to the port, where a report of a partially submerged body had been called in. While that body has since been confirmed as that of Michael Kowo, who was last seen in the Yarborough area of Belize City on November 29th. Accompanied by a Coast Guard vessel, police were able to bring the body to shore at the low berth section of the port facility. News 5 reached out to Kobo's family earlier today, and we were informed that they were coming in from San Pedro to see if the body that was found this morning is in fact that of their loved one. The deceased, we are told, has been transported to the Central Health Science University, where a post-mortem examination will be conducted.
So Friday, 4 o'clock, like I'm saying before, like 4:20, he texts me and he tell me, "Hi mom, what you doing?" But he talk to me in Spanish because he speak alone English, but I talk to him in Spanish because I like hear how he sung to him in his voice. Yeah. And he texts me, "¿Cómo estás, mami?" Yeah. So I tell him, "Stupido, I'm okay, I'm in bed." And then I tell him, "What you doing?" And then he said, "Estoy esperando para mis burritos." So I tell him, "Don't be on the street in Belize late because Belize is dangerous." He said, I'm not going to buy the burritos, Mama, waiting for my boys, then can get it for me. I said, "Okay, hijo." And he said, "What you doing?" I tell him in bed, I'm going to take a nap right now. That's something I do every day. So he continued to chat up with my husband, text up till 6:36 in the evening. I still remember because I was checking the text. My phone checking with him, I call back, I never call. I fall asleep. On Saturday morning, I check my phone and I said, this is my way with my kids, and everybody in San Pedro knows I talk like that with my kids. I'm a single mother for a lot of years, and I've been mom and dad for them. They're used to that. So I tell my husband, this don't text me yet. So I start to call him, text him, and he don't answer, and I get frustrated because I don't use that. He's not like that. He's a person every hour, he will text, ¿qué estás haciendo? What you doing? Love your mom, and he will hang out. What you doing, son? Hey, they're chilling with the boys. Okay? My son said, "Man, don't worry, he'll come back Sunday." I said, "No, he'll tell me Saturday. Maybe no answer because phone gone dead, or maybe phone not good or something. The party, and he forget to text you." So Monday, Tuesday, the big brother can look for him. Just to see I'm worried. Brother can look with him to the friend house. When he said they will meet. Friends say my son never reached when he was alive. Because my son called me and he told me there was party. And I hear the music. So my son said then Monday, Tuesday looking all about for his little brother. Never find him. So then returned yesterday home so we can put a report. But before that, his older sister already posted that his little brother went missing. And so we start to look for him. We never find him. We're looking in the island with both with his friend and we don't find him. So today we put the We went to the police station, we put the report again to come to Belize. Couldn't tell me I have to come to Belize. So I passed to pick up some papers. And my other son sent me a text telling me if I see them find a body.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
Today's House sitting in Butane was fiery and spirited as the LPG price war wages. Prime Minister Dean Barrow is loading the government's arsenal, expecting some sort of retaliatory effort from the three major butane importing companies, which are owned by one Mexican family. On November 16th, the government announced fixed prices per gallon of liquid petroleum gas, that is butane gas. This is 2 weeks after LPG importers Belize Western Energy Limited, Gas Tomza, and Southern Choice Butane, Zeta Gas, began selling butane at a much cheaper price. The company's actions are interpreted as a reaction to the anticipated National Gas Company, which would be the sole importer of butane in the country. Government says that the fixed prices are necessary to prevent predatory pricing by major importers who have engaged in an act of driving prices down well below the maximum ceiling for retail and wholesale of LPG. For consumers, low prices are good news, but the government believes that the companies are focusing on driving out about 25 local retailers out of the market. The opposition criticized the government for protecting the local retailers and not the consumers.
I believe, Madam Speaker, that this particular act is a direct assault on the vast majority of poor and middle-class Belizeans, Madam Speaker, because they are the consumers of butane. And even if it is only for a very temporary, short period of time that the distributors in the city and in the country are providing this reprieve, this discount, this low price of butane, why are we attacking the poor people, especially at this time of the year?
I've heard governments protecting the consumer from price gouging, that you want to make sure that the suppliers would not take advantage of the consumers. But I think this is the first time when I hear the government is protecting the suppliers by ensuring that they cannot go below a certain price. This is madness, Madam Speaker. I mean, especially at a time when here with Christmas time to come, everybody is doing a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, and yet the government would not allow the competition to reduce the price. It really makes absolutely no sense, Madam Speaker.
Maybe I'm missing something, but I would think that we would want to pass legislation to protect the majority of people, not a handful of people. We should bring legislation here not to try to defend or protect 25 retailers, but we should support any kind of pricing, any kind of mechanism that will bring down the prices for ordinary people. 70% of all households in this country, they say, use butane. So how are we going to be reactionary when the price is coming down? This is a most unusual act. If these importers / distributors / retailers can bring down the price of butane to this low, it means they could have been doing it for many, many years. It means that the ordinary people of this country, all of us, have been fleeced, have been shafted. Me know the business of being shafted, You understand? And you can't tell me because that's how new people want to shaft you, that the locals want to shaft you, that no foreigners want to shaft you. I don't care who, I don't want nobody shaft me.
The government introduced and passed the Supplies Control Amendment Bill, which increases penalties that may be imposed on these three companies if they continue to sell LPG below the fixed price. In anticipation of some sort of retaliatory move, the government has prepared a statutory instrument that would give the Supplies Control Unit the power to seize the stocks of any of the three companies if they break the law. The Prime Minister lashed out at the importers and those who opposed the amendment.
I know that those on the other side are not without intelligence, not without common sense, not without brains. And so when they say the sorts of things they're saying now, I have to conclude that they're just playing the fool in order to try to exploit what they see as a political opportunity. Madam Speaker, if once you concede, as you must, that the current suppliers of butane to this country are a monopoly, or a monopoly. They divide the monopoly into 3 different countries, but it is one family that controls the sourcing of butane into this country, a Mexican family. I heard the honorable member for Lekai say, well, if that company and its agents can in fact take the price as low as they have done in this effort to drive the local retailers out of the market, it means we have been fleeced, because we could have forced them to retail at that sort of low price a long time ago. But he well knows, and the entire country knows, that when the ministry seeks to set a ceiling, and those suppliers, who are also retailers and distributors, don't want to accept that ceiling, they threaten that they will cut off this country, that no butane will come into the country. You want to look out for poor people? How you want to look out for them when they can't cook, when they can't do anything, because these people who are holding us up to ransom say we will simply stop importing butane? I know, properly explain to the Belizean public, they are prepared they're prepared to pay what is fair, and to give up the fact that they could pay much less for a period of about 2 or 3 more weeks, but that the result of that would be that all local retailers would be driven out of business, and then the people who would have succeeded in doing that, who source the butane, would simply have jacked the prices up tenfold. Who do you think the Belizean public would have come to then? And we have, well, let me, you say, you shouldn't have me open your mouth. You shouldn't have me open your mouth. You shouldn't have me open your mouth. This bill is a kind of companion piece or an extension to an SI that is being passed, which SI will give the supplies control people power to seize the stock of those importers if they play the fool and not follow the law and keep threatening us about cutting us off. If you think that they ain't going gentle into that, good night, think again. So we need to prepare for war. And we are making sure that we have a proper arsenal. We have a proper armory, a proper set of weaponry, so that we could grab the knife here, grab the sword here, pick up the gun here, take the bow and arrow here.
Contractor Imer Hernandez and the many multi-million-dollar infrastructural contracts that he has been awarded under this UDP government was the subject of a heated debate between Prime Minister Dean Barrow and opposition leader John Briceño. Hernandez is the nephew of the former Deputy Prime Minister Gaspar Vega. Speaking on the adjournment, Briceño spoke on what he described as the incestuous relationship between the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Finance, and Imer Hernandez and Company Limited. Imer, who is seen as the government favorite contractor, whose quality of works has been receiving many multi-million-dollar contracts which are funded by international entities such as the Inter-American Development Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank. Just recently, Hernandez signed 2 contracts valued roughly $63 million for Lot 1 and $70 million for Lot 2 of the rehabilitation of the coastal road. Opposition leader John Briceño told the House today that he has written to the IDB to look into these contracts.
The IDB did respond to our letter, and we will be meeting with them very shortly. They have invited us to go to their office. I know you would have thought that this kind of scrutiny, this kind of alleged corruption that's taking place, and the bad name that this government is taking, that you have put a stop to the practice of awarding contracts to this company, awarding contracts to Emer Hernandez and company. But no, Madam Speaker, they got bold and they got more barefaced. Because on April of this year, 2 months after the Prime Minister was accosted with the $39 million worth of contract that was given to Emer Hernandez and company, on the 23rd of April of this year, Emer Hernandez and company was awarded a contract for lot number 3 on the George Price Highway for 16.619 kilometers for $19,012,935. About 2 months ago, a mission from the Office of Institutional Integrity from Washington, D.C., commissioned by the IDB, came to do an unannounced spot check, or an unannounced audit on this company and this project, and to investigate the allegations of fraud and bribery in relations to the award to Lot 3 to Emer Hernandez and company. Now, whilst the report has not been made public yet, but what I've been told that they found that a check was made for $500,000 a few months. I know they can't know names, I don't.
A point of order.
That is hearsay. He says the report is not public. For him to say what I have been told by whom? And why are we to put any store by what he's been told? Emer Hernandez is fair game, but you can't use the privilege of the House to make a specific allegation like that and say, but I have no evidence for it. It's just what I've been told.
Honorable Opposition Leader, kindly proceed away from that point. Do not repeat that, please.
The Prime Minister makes these allegations every time he comes to the House, Yes. But we are getting a couple of the checks, $500,000, and you know that for who? Because we know that for who. On December 2nd, 2019, Madam Speaker, just a few days ago, the government of Belize proudly announced that they have signed 2 contracts for the paving of the coastal road, totaling $133,192,025.14. And guess who get it? Exactly. Emer Hernandez and company. Now, they attached a Mexican company, so they use the Mexican company, but who is fronting the project is really Emer Hernandez and company. That is what the project document states.
In response to the statement made by Briceño, Prime Minister Dean Barrow defended Hernandez, saying that these contracts are awarded by international entities which carry out their due diligence.
You start off accusing this government of giving all these contracts to Emer, contracts that he doesn't deserve, because again, you say he's a worthless contractor. But you end up having to admit that certainly with respect to the last 2 contracts, the contracts have not been given by the United Democratic Party administration. These are international contracts awarded by international governments and financial institutions after a process that has to pass the greatest possible degree of internal scrutiny. IDB, CDB, the British, OFID, OPEC, every single one of them continues to give Emer Hernandez contracts on the basis that they, who have been operating in this country for years and years, and who, like you said, know exactly how the running is going at Belize, on the basis that they are satisfied, not only that he qualifies, but that he does good work and therefore deserves to be awarded the contracts that they give him.
Before the Hernandez debate unfolded during the sitting of the House, Minister of Works René Montero made a statement related to multi-million-dollar coastal road contract that Hernandez's firm was awarded. According to Montero, in June of this year, the procurement process was initiated. 6 companies made bids for Lot 1 and 5 made bids for Lot 2. He says that no objection was received by the Caribbean Development Bank, who gave the go-ahead to award the contract to Hernandez.
On the 7th November 2019, after careful review and consideration by the Caribbean Development Bank, the Ministry of Works received no objection letter from the Caribbean Bank agreeing with the consultant's bid evaluation report and approval of rewards of contracts to the lowest evaluated bidder for both Lot 1 and 2, that is, Construcciones y Carretera S.A. de CV and joint venture with Emir Hernandez Development Company. Madam Speaker, it is important to highlight that throughout the entire procurement process, approval and no objection had to be sought from the Caribbean Development for every step of the process. The pre-qualification evaluation report and the bid evaluation report was also conducted by a foreign firm approved by the Caribbean Development Bank. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to make it absolutely clear that it was the engineering consultancy firm, Politecnica, an Italian firm, that conducted the evaluation and made recommendations to the Caribbean Development Bank as to which company qualified to be awarded these contracts. The Ministry of Works signed the contracts only after receiving instructions for the Caribbean Development Bank to do so.
Montero also spoke of government's plans for the Haulover Bridge, which is rapidly deteriorating. The Barrow administration in mid-October 2017 secured a $12 million loan from the OPEC Fund for the International Development to replace the bridge. It was also pointed out back then that in 2014, the government had already secured $60 million Belize dollars for the cost of the bridge. In 2016, according to Minister Montero, a contract was signed with an Italian structural specialist for the design of the bridge. He said that 7 contractors submitted bids to pre-qualify, but the consultancy firm of Politecnica approved 2 companies, an Italian firm and a joint venture between a Belize and Mexico firm. Minister Montero today told the opposition that no contract has been signed, awarded, or approved to any contractor as yet, and it will be done with the approval and instruction of the CDB.
Out of the 2 companies that qualified, only 1 bid was received on the 3rd September 2019. This was evaluated and found to be over the budget. In further consultation with the banks, the Ministry of Works received no objection from CDB to negotiate a lower cost. This negotiation is ongoing. To date, no contract has been signed for the construction of the new Haulover Bridge. The Ministry of Works is committed to follow the instructions of the Caribbean Development Bank and the Ministry of Finance to stay within its loan budget and will not sign any contract until approval is granted by the Caribbean Development Bank, OFID, CDF, and the Ministry of Finance. Madam Speaker, as you can see from the above statement, No contract has been signed for the construction of the Halover Bridge. Further, Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize that a contract for the construction of the Halover Bridge will only be signed after receiving instructions from the lending institution to do so. In this case, Madam Speaker, the Caribbean Development Bank.
Coming up, locally produced sugar to enter the Carriacou market, and the house of a Benque family is destroyed by a fire. A significant decision was taken at a recent regional meeting, which is sweet news for sugar producers in Belize, ASR, BSI, and Santander. After years of lobbying, the locally produced sugar will be able to enter markets in the Caribbean through an integrated sugar market program. Here's News 5's San Ignacio.
Belize continues to make significant inroads in getting locally produced sugar into the CARICOM market. High on the agenda at the 49th regular meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development, COTED, held in Georgetown, Guyana last month, was the establishment of an integrated sugar market. This would seek to assess the interests of both regional producers and manufacturers. William Neal is the communications officer for the Sugar Association of the Caribbean.
After 3 years of advocating across the region with both producer states of sugar and non-producing member states, we were able to get a significant decision made by COTED. What that means is that we had some concerns about brown sugar coming into the region from extra-regional sources, and that we were worried that they were not paying the CET. COTED reaffirmed that brown sugar coming into the region needs to, with immediate effect, pay the CET, which is good for us because there has been a significant erosion of that market.
The protection of the common external tariff shall remain for the quantities of sugar available within the region, in accordance with the provisions of the revised treaty. Likewise, a monitoring mechanism will be implemented for all sugars to determine the match and availability, as well as demand requirements to ensure support to the regional production of sugar.
We need to get an idea of exactly how much sugar is being used in the manufacturing sector, in the retailing sector, in every aspect of life in the Caribbean. So that was number 2. And then the third one is that once the member states that are sugar producers can produce the quantity and the quality of sugar needed by the region, then the CET will go into effect. Of course, this is significant because even though that is what the treaty says, it means that there will not be a moving of the goalpost, so to speak.
This means that member states must comply with their existing obligations by applying the common external tariff to all brown sugar entering the CARICOM single market.
What it means actually too is that there's no change in what happens now, but what it does, it creates the right environment for investment in the region.
That decision allows for the security required by the private sector to invest further in the industry and to upgrade production facilities, as well as produce higher qualities of sugar and to expand output.
I think it's significant because with the changes in the EU regime dating back to 2017, it's difficult for CARICOM produced sugar to find a home. And of course, in most other regions, you have the sugar that is produced locally, meaning in that area, that you satisfy the local demands first, and then you export what is left. That means that you have a safe market. We have never had that in CARICOM, and it has been for a number of historical reasons. Obviously, because we sold most of our sugar to the EU for such lucrative prices, we never even looked at our own market.
This, of course, is from a regional perspective, but what does this now mean for ASR BSI in terms of having its sugar produced in Belize, being able to find that proverbial home, as you said?
Well, it's not only for just BSI. It also means that Santander and any other producer in the region can compete with another regional producer instead of an extra-regional producer or with dumped sugar from outside the region.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
The family of 32-year-old Sylvia Mas lost her house and belongings in a fire on Tuesday afternoon. Mas was not at home when the blaze erupted, and only rubbles remain where she once lived. The building is the property of Amar Guerra of Benque town. It had no electricity, nor was it insured. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
A family of 4 has been displaced after a fire in Benque on Tuesday night destroyed their rented one-bedroom house on the Old Belize Road in that western town. Sylvia Mas was not at home when a fire broke inside the bedroom of the wooden structure. The flames spread quickly through the building, even as residents came out and tried to put out the fire.
I went to my room and changed. Then I come out and see the house was already burning, but I never see it when it started.
No.
I just hear the boys were rushing, taking water to throw it, but
so people came out to try and help out the fire?
Yes, the next one and the lead boyfriend right here. But when I come, the fire was already in the middle of the house.
Fire officials out west received a call from police around 6:45 p.m., but were given the wrong address. Firefighters who were out dealing with a brush fire were rerouted to the area, but by then the blaze had already engulfed the property. By the time the blaze was extinguished, nothing could have been saved.
At the time, based on information we received from police, our firefighters went out and tried to find where the fire was, but it seems that it was the wrong address they gave us, right? So me and my second commanding officer, we went on our cycle and did another check in the area where we find that the fire was in another area, which was the old Belize Road. So when we reached, we noticed that a house was burning, and we turned back and informed our guys in the truck that we found the fire, and they reached on the scene. The house was already total, right? And so the firefighters got into operation and got out the hoses and get the fire extinguished.
Residents say that the fire gave them a scare because minutes after it broke, the gas tank exploded. Marlette Connell lives next door to the property and says that they had to evacuate from their house due to the intensity of the heat being emitted from the blaze.
My brother-in-law got out from the house because the heat was getting inside. Then we rush out, stay right there in the cone and run. And I think it was the gas, and
explosion.
Yes, explosion.
Wow, the gas tank. Now, who lived there? Was anybody at home at the time?
No, nobody was there. Only the house alone. But I don't know why it get the fire and.
Because I understand it didn't have any electricity.
Yes, but the lady used to cook outside. She used to put some fire and cook outside, but I don't know something. We don't understand what happened there.
The house had no electricity. While police are classifying the fire as a case of arson, leading firefighter Redon says that the investigation is still ongoing to determine the cause.
Presently, so far we are still investigating, and we haven't determined any cause of the fire yet, because from the investigation so far, the information we got from the occupier of the structure is that they had no electricity, and at the same time, no one was home at the time. So our investigation is still ongoing, and there is no cause for the fires as so far.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The Puck family from Sakat's village in the west remain on edge tonight since their loved one has not been seen or heard from for 6 days. Elito Puck, a resident of Arenal Road in Benque Viejo, was last seen alive on November 28 when he left his house, claiming that he was headed to Melchor. The family fears that something went wrong for the 42-year-old retired teacher because despite searches in neighboring Melchor de Mencos, Puck has not been located. Today, news spread like wildfire that a severed head was discovered in Barrio Suchitan in Melchor de Mencos. It was speculated that it was Puck's, but family members confirmed to News 5 this afternoon that it wasn't. They also informed our news team that they have contacted both Guatemalan and Belizean authorities who are looking into the whereabouts of their missing relative. If you have any information which can assist in locating him, please call the family members at 610-6170 or the nearest police station. Earlier you heard that the family of Michael Cobo has identified his body. But have you seen Densmore Bowman? The Belmopan resident was last seen on Friday night in the Young Bank area with another man. But since then, no one has been able to locate him. Search efforts in and around Belmopan have proven futile. Tonight, his mother believes he's dead. Mary Coleman told News 5 that she's heartbroken over her son's disappearance and wants to find his body to get some closure.
Friday, he left home to go to the Western Union to collect some money, and he didn't return as yet.
Do you know if he was in the company of anyone?
Well, when he left home, he lived by himself, but according to friends, he went and meet some of his other friends out there.
Ms. Coleman, what do you believe happened to your son? Is this like him to just leave and not get in touch with the family?
Nope, he would never do that. I could guarantee he will never do that. My son, every morning my son get up. When he get up, he will send me a message saying, "Morning, Mom," or "Hi, Mom." So I will reply to him, "Hi, son." I said, "What do you want?" He would say, "Nothing, I'm just saying hi to let you know that I'm up and I'm safe." Because that's the relationship me and my son have. So I said, "Okay, and I want to find out if you are okay." Every morning, that's the message I get from my son.
Ever since he went missing, you haven't gotten any message?
Every day, every morning, I get up and I try to imagine I get that text from him. Every day, that's what I do. I try to see that text there, that he's okay.
What do you believe happened to your son, Miss Coleman?
Well, like everybody, my belief is that the guys that he was with just take his life.
Why would they take his life if they're his friends?
That's the same question and the answer I would want to know. I would like to know. Simply means that they were pretending to be his friend.
Right now, your worst fear is that your son is dead somewhere.
Well, I know that for a fact, because he would never be away from his kids so long. Whosoever did this to my son, please just send me a note, send me something, send somebody. It don't have to be me. Send somebody something and tell us where he is, so that I could get a closure for him and for myself. Because I don't want to go back home and I don't find my son. And at least I want, when I come and visit, I could go to the graveyard to visit my son. They have already took him away from me. They have already have my life torn up.
If you have any information about Bowman's whereabouts, you are asked to get in touch with the nearest police station. A former inmate is claiming that he was raped while serving time at the prison and is seeking compensation. The alleged victim is seeking aggravated and exemplary damages for the harm, unnatural crime, and personal injuries caused to him by a prisoner. The former inmate claimed that he was raped by another prisoner on November 25, 2017, when he sustained bodily injuries. The claimant stated that he reported the matter to a prison officer who failed to report it to his superior, so he remained with his perpetrator in the administrative segregation section. He claims he was sexually assaulted a second time on November 29, 2017. The case was adjourned to January 7, 2020, when Justice Griffith is expected to give her decision. Attorney Anthony Sylvester is representing the claimant, while Crown Counsel Kimberly Wallace and Senior Counsel Philip Zuniga are representing the defendant. Justice Colin Williams is expected to hand down a decision on November 18, 2019 in the case of 21-year-old Mark Waite, who was charged with the attempted murder of Jamelia Neal. In trial today, Waite called two witnesses, including his sister, Desiree Waite, who told the court that she was with him at the time of the incident. Last month, the court heard from Neal, who testified that on the night of June 23, 2015, she was at a shop on Cesar Ridge Road in Belize City when Waite pointed a gun in her face. Waite pulled the trigger, but the gun snapped. Neal then tried to escape, but Waite managed to fire several shots, hitting her on the shoulder, elbow, and hip. Waite was unrepresented, while Senior Crown Counsel Shanice Williams prosecuted the case. Months ago in June, Waite was acquitted of the murder of journalist Kareem Clark. In the House today, the government passed and approved a loan motion for $10 million to improve the quality of education in the country. The Inter-American Development Bank Education Quality Improvement Program is designed to mainly improve the quality and gender equity of education at the primary and secondary levels. The loan motion was presented by Minister of Finance and Prime Minister Dean Barrow, who at first displayed the willingness to retract the loan motion to be debated at another occasion.
I had indicated to the clerk that I would not wish to proceed with the Inter-American Development Bank Education Quality Improvement Program, but the Minister of Education has represented to me that it would really be very much in the interest of the ministry for me, in fact, to proceed with the motion. So I'm sorry to be going back and forth, Madam Speaker, but if you will permit, if not, then we simply leave it until next time. But if it's okay.
So we are proceeding, we'd like to present, well, it's on the paper, so it's here. So let's proceed.
Very well.
Go ahead, it's still
Much
there.
obliged, much obliged. Madam Speaker, this is the Inter-American Development Bank Education Quality Improvement Program 2, EQUIP 2. It's a US $10 million loan motion 2019. I move, whereas as a member of the Inter-American Development Bank, Belize is eligible for development assistance, whereas the government of Belize has approached the bank for financial assistance, whereas the general objective of the program will be pursued by achieving the specific objectives: 1, to improve the quality of primary school teachers; 2, to improve the quality of secondary school teachers; and 3, to promote gender-sensitive STEAM teaching. Whereas the bank has offered financing of up to US $10 million from its OCR, Ordinary Capital Resources.
This motion has been sprung on us today for passage. And just detecting the tone of voice used by the Prime Minister, he too is not convinced as to what this is all about.
A hell of a thing. He is able to say what my tone of voice indicates. I always knew him to be a fellow of many talents, but I never thought it was quite as compendious as that. You're a hell of a fellow. But Madam Speaker, if the...
I'm speaking.
No, I just wanted to... I'm trying to make your burden lighter, man.
Okay.
If it is that there is an objection to our passing it all at once today, that's fine. I will not make any such request, and we can debate it next time. What I don't understand, there's nothing to hide about these things. These things are straightforward. But if you say that you have not had enough time for preparation, if you wish, I am prepared to not proceed with it all at once today.
Members of the opposition questioned the purpose of the loan, pointing out that there is a lot left to be desired for Belize's education system. While the education system isn't perfect, Prime Minister Barrow says that today's signature program calls for a celebration.
I would like to hear from the Minister, in what way will it assist you and the government of Belize to spend $20 million to carry out this quality improvement? Because clearly there is need for quality in our education system, but I'm not too sure that this money will be spent on just more workshops. Is that it?
I believe all of us have seen where we have made very, very good investments in teacher training, that education is advancing in this area, and in fact this is just a continuation and a further expansion of our efforts to ensure that a good quality education is afforded. While it is that I do hear some protests, I would hope that we can support this. There's nothing to hide, Madam Speaker. While we're making another loan, that's their cry. This is a loan that is being borrowed to move us in the forward direction.
The Prime Minister and the Minister of Education have been saying, or especially the Minister of Education, that they've been spending a lot on teacher training but we're not seeing the results when it comes to the PSE in the primary school levels, Madam Speaker. So we're spending all of this money, but something is not going right. And it seems to me, from this what we're talking about, is that this is just another project where we're going to be spending $20 million, bringing people from MIT. But what are going to be the tangible results?
When you look at the results of our national performance in our standardized examinations, whether it be the Belize Junior Achievement Test, or whether it is the Primary School Leaving Examination, the PSC, Madam Speaker, let us be honest. We all know that there is a lot of work that needs to be done in those areas.
Obviously, our education system, as the Minister said, isn't perfect. And obviously, as he said, that is why we continue with initiatives such as this one to try and make it better. Let us not get into why the results are where they are, because I don't want to point any fingers at anybody. But the facts are the facts, and given that those facts are what they are, we can't sit on our hands and do nothing. It's a constant battle, it's a constant struggle. And every time a signature program, such as this one, can in fact be pioneered by the government of Belize, I believe that is a time for celebration.
After the break, Christmas is here for San Ignacio family. Christmas will be a happy time for a family in San Ignacio. That's because Myrna Cuellar and her children today received the keys to a new house, which will bring ease to their life in the upcoming festive season. The two-bedroom house was built by Hand in Hand Ministries in partnership with the Belize Bank. Here's News 5's Dwayne Moody.
A family of 6 from San Ignacio today received the keys to a brand new house just in time for the Christmas holidays. Today, in the outskirts of San Ignacio off the Bullet Tree Road in an isolated area of the western town, is where Myrna Cuellar lives with her husband and 4 children. They have been praying for this blessing, and finally their greatest wish has become a reality.
I feel happy. I think this is a big blessing that I was waiting for. I have been asking God for many years for this, and I know He answered my prayers, my children's prayers, because we together as family, we pray for the same thing, and we don't get it, so I am happy.
Well, talk to us. You were talking to me earlier that your husband, you guys are still in disbelief that this has happened?
Yes, I walk around the house and I tell my husband, I think I still day in a dream, because only last month I was telling him that we were not sure who was going to get the help. So I tell him, I still can't believe it's us. So we are going to live in a new house. We are not going to suffer cold nor rain. So we are very happy.
This is one of 400 houses to date that have been built by Hand in Hand Ministries through its Building for Change program that started several years ago. It provides families who meet specific criteria with an opportunity to improve their living condition. In this case, the Cuellars received a 2-bedroom wooden house with plumbing and electrical.
It's a method of poverty alleviation. I'm not sure if you heard the story about the starfish. Yes, there's a wide variety of poverty in Belize, but if we help one family at a time, with the starfish story, one starfish thrown back into the sea at a time, it doesn't look as if though it's that we're impacting or making a difference, but we are making a difference in the family's lives, and that is very important. Whenever a local organization partners with Hand in Hand, they not only provide the funds, but they also get their own volunteers from within their staff to come out and build houses with us under the supervision of our coordinator, Mr. Beto, and our construction, the assistant coordinator, which is Mr. Lewis.
The value of the house is over $17,000, which was provided through partnership with the Belize Bank Limited. Relief Officer Gerard Martinez says that it is part of the bank's corporate social responsibility to help the community outside of the services it offers to its customers.
Well, Belize Bank has always been known to us as an organization that gives back to the community. And here in San Ignacio, we are glad and excited that during this time of the year, we are able to donate a house to this needy family.
Yes, this is our 36th house for the year. The last house we're building for 2019, it has been a long year, very productive with the different donors and local organization, especially who has came out swinging for us this year. Belize Bank has showed interest in building with us. They wanted to do either south or west, and we gave them a couple of options, and they were more than willing to assist Ms. Myrna Cuellar in housing assistance.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
As a part of its contribution to the 16 days of activism, the U.S. Embassy launched its gender-based violence information campaign. The message is being shared through 160 posters entitled, "When She Speaks, Listen." These will be placed in high-density areas. Here's more from the launch today in Butane.
It's a big issue. It's a big issue here. It's a big issue in a lot of countries. You don't have to be reading the papers for too many days to have another story come out where somebody was a victim. You don't have to ask too many friends before you learn that somebody had escaped a relationship that was abusive years ago. So this is not an effort to say, hey, Belize, you are unique, you have a problem. No, Belize is not unique at all. Unfortunately, this is common. but it is a serious issue, and it's something that we need to shine a light on, and we need to tell victims that there are resources they can reach out to. What we're launching today is, in fact, the U.S. Embassy's effort to contribute to the 16 Days of Activism by creating signs that can be placed in public areas of high traffic throughout Belize that tell people that there are resources, that tell victims of violence that there are people they can call if they find themselves in that situation. We worked on putting that together, worked with various governmental organizations to have them placed in certain areas out throughout Belize, like ports of entry, and particularly we're focusing on putting them in restrooms on the wall, because sometimes that's the only place that somebody that's a victim of violence gets a moment free from their from the person who's beating them. That's when they have a moment to be able to say, I'm safe here, I can make a phone call, I can write down, I can get this information. So that's the audience we're trying to go for.
The Special Envoy for Women and Children, Kim Simplice Barrow, was also present at today's event. Barrow spoke about the value of gender-based violence awareness and the impact the posters can have.
Many times the public does not recognize the signs of gender-based violence or overlook victims' cries for help. Therefore, it is valuable as it is to raise awareness in the fight against gender-based violence, and action such as this highlights the importance of reporting violent crimes and reminds us that we must listen to victims when they speak out. Having these signs in strategic locations like the borders of the school, offices, terminals, or supermarkets will remind Belizeans and all to ensure that they listen to victims and give access to important hotline numbers to safeguard the safety of victims. Like you rightly said, it might be that only moment that someone might have to make that call that could save their lives.
When we come back, the extension to a land amnesty initiative is hotly debated in the House. The program for Belize, through a project with the Food and Agriculture Organization, carried out extensive research to determine what it would take to ensure the long-term productivity of lowland tropical forests in Belize. The project, funded by the German government in partnership with the Forest Department, University of Hamburg, and Program for Belize, will be used to guide sustainable forestry management in Belize. The project was executed in 4 blocks of forest, 3 of those in the Rio Bravo and the 4th in a community forestry area. Reporter Andrea Polanco tells us more.
The program for Belize conducted a study to find out more about the productivity of lowland tropical forests and what can be done to support sustainable management to increase commercial trees that we need for timber production. The project was carried out across 4 blocks of forests, where they did an inventory of commercial and non-commercial species, as well as the dominant and competitor types of trees.
That has to do with how much you harvest and how much conservation practice you put in place. In our case, we use a 40-year rotation cycle, which means when we harvest a block, we close it, we don't come back until 40 years to give it time to regenerate. But is it possible to go in before that? And so that's part of the questions we're asking, and at the same time, how much more it will cost. Because we know, especially in northern Belize, most of the forest has been depleted. There's not sufficient timber, especially mahogany, for the sawmills in the north. And so this project is very important because it's trying to demonstrate how we can do it sustainably. And in this case, we've been basically looking at how we could put practices that will reduce the competitor trees and increase the growth of the commercial trees that we want for production.
The project shows that these forests with long-term concessions have stronger management plans in place, but those sustainable practices are not done across all timber extraction blocks. The short-term permits or the annual concessions are an area of concern.
That is an area where, admittedly, we need to work on. And so that is an area where the results from this particular project we will certainly be applying, especially for the 1-year licenses where for sure we've seen that there is a depletion in the timber stocks in these areas that have been issued under 1-year licenses.
Why do you think there is that depletion or that problem when it comes to the short-term concession?
Planning. We need to plan better around what it is that is extracted and to start looking at ways in which we can apply the sustainability criteria to these forests. Now, these forests that are put under short-term licenses, these are within national lands. They aren't protected like forest reserves, for instance, or neither are they under private landholding. And so in terms of the extent and the spread of areas that are under that type of management regime, it becomes a challenge. And certainly, that is one area in terms of the application of results from projects such as these, it becomes important.
Romero says that the timber industry stands to lose if long-term forestry management isn't implemented. Some commercial species are already depleted from parts of the forests. Their evaluation shows that it can cost upward of $10,000 more for sustainable practices to be put in place, but it's worth it in the longer run.
If it's not done sustainably, it means you'll harvest more and then you will make more money in the short term or in that year. But then after that, your forest is basically left as a skeleton forest. If your competitor trees are suppressing your commercial trees, then that forest will not regenerate the way you need it, and in the future you won't be able to get the commercial trees that you need. And that's essentially has been happening in the north. If you look at it, there are sawmill owners from the north that has been going all the way down south to get trees for your sawmills. Well, what that means is that we have not been doing it sustainably in the north.
The project was conducted in 4 blocks, including the community forestry project in Toledo called Kiche-Ha. Chairman of the group explains how they've benefited from learning about sustainable forestry practices.
This project has helped our community in developing jobs, income to the community. Before, we know that there is no license that was being operated by communities. This community has chose to do their own thing, running their own operation in logging. So before, we have like illegal loggers logging. Actually, when we do logging before, we actually cut those trees at this height. But right now, through this management plan and so, we lower the cutting of those stumps at least 6 inches and above. Yeah, the lower we go is 6 inch. Then that's how we see that we are doing a proper logging than before. And before we actually people do legal cutting and they just sell it like that, and it's not sustainable. Just cut like any size of trees, and it's not the right way.
The FAO implemented the project with funding from the German government and support from 3 agencies. It is part of an initiative in 3 other countries.
Belize is pretty much advanced in its program to do to safeguard the protection of these forests. I think what needs to happen now is kind of a shift in the view that we have to focus more on the trees which we are going to harvest in the future. If we want to do any silvicultural treatments or anything to ensure the productivity of the forest, then we need to look after these, identify these future crop trees. Maybe we can protect them during the harvest. That is certainly crucial, because if we damage them now, then they would start to rot and we would not have anything to harvest which has value later. So, and then we can also see if we can do something, if we can liberate them from their competitors so that they grow a little bit faster than they would do normally without our intervention.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
For the second time in recent months, the Embassy of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and Belize has issued a public caution. This time, it is about an article circulating on social media that, quote, Taiwanese government warns investors caution with Belize, unquote. The embassy states that it is all fabricated and that instead it has worked with the government to promote and strengthen the bilateral trade with Belize. The embassy reminds that in June, a Taiwanese delegation was here to explore investment opportunities in tourism, and that another delegation was here in October looking at the agriculture sector. The embassy goes on to list other initiatives to bolster trade and investment, while appealing to the public to be cautious of inaccurate information regarding Taiwan. One more item from the House. A motion to extend the land amnesty tax program was tabled today. The partial remission of land tax arrears program, which was originally scheduled to last 6 months, raised eyebrows, and now the government's move to extend the program has raised further questions. Landowners who owe land taxes will be able to settle or manage arrears for 6 months. In late October, a statutory instrument signed by Minister of Natural Resources Hugo Pat was gazetted. It extended the program to June 1st instead of April 7th, granting wealthy landowners an additional month and 3 weeks. This morning, Opposition Leader John Brisenia asked Lands Minister why there was the need to extend the deadline into the new fiscal year. The bill, however, has the deadline as April, beyond the new fiscal year. When the Opposition Leader John Brisenia asked Minister Pat about it, he admitted there was a mistake.
The actual program started in October, so that we are asking for an extension to meet the 6 month period that was originally scheduled. So we're looking at the start of November, and we're targeting the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
But he is saying 6 months.
6 months.
Beyond the fiscal year.
November, October, November, December, January, February, and March.
He's saying commencing the 1st of December. This is saying commencing the 1st of December, so this will go all the way into May of next year.
No, we have just moved. Actually, that would have been a typo mistake. It's effective the 1st of October to end in the fiscal year of
So
March.
1st of April will not be included.
Not be included.
Okay, well then, because that's a massive typing
it's-
error that they made, no?
It will end in the fiscal year of March.
Coming up after the break, the art from 12 budding artists make the inspiration calendar.
As we continue to enhance customer
Since 2012, the Belize Police Department has been hosting a torch run to raise awareness and funds for the Special Olympics Belize. This year, the department is backed up by other law enforcement agencies and kicked off the run in Punta Gorda. The goal is to raise $10,000 this year, and National Coordinator Aaron Ferguson of the Belize Police Department says they are on schedule to meet that goal. Here's more about the event.
The Law Enforcement Torch Run is an initiative by where law officials raise funds and awareness for persons with intellectual disability. It has been happening since the year 2012, and since then we have been traversing across the country of Belize just doing that. We commenced in Punta Gorda this week, and thereafter we went on to intermediate southern formation into Placencia, Dangriga, Belmopan. Then we went all the way to Benque, San Ignacio. So we have been doing a tour, and we have just recently came from San Pedro. Now we are proceeding to Curza, then after into Orange Walk, and on Friday, December 6th, we're going to commemorate the National Games, where the Flame of Hope will be carried into the Marion Jones Sporting Complex, where the special athletes are going to have a day of sporting activities there in Marion Jones Sporting Complex.
Now I know with this torch run you're also setting up points where you're collecting monies as well. Talk to us about that part of the initiative.
Well, most certainly the mission statement behind the Law Enforcement Torch Run is to raise funds and bring awareness to persons with intellectual disability. Along the road we have some jars with us, but definitely we depend, and I must say a big kudos to all our community, to our businesses, to our community, to everybody that have been coming out in support of this initiative. It has been wonderful. Our aim is definitely to raise $10,000, and we are nearing that. So I believe that we would certainly exceed that goal that we have this year. The reason being is that because we have giant of law enforcement agencies backing up us this year. We have the Custom Department, we have the Belize Police Department, we have the Belize Coast Guard, we have the BDF, the Belize Defense Force, we have the Fire Department, and we have definitely Colby Foundation, who is backing up this initiative and make up the team that are traveling across this country of Belize. And you know, it's a proud moment for us as law enforcement officials, because you know, we know that deep down in our heart that we are doing something that you know, means a lot to us. And when we actually are on the road, we see the changes of the face of these persons that we are, you know, doing this initiative for. I light up, and you know, we are certainly proud of it.
The 2020 Inspiration Calendar was unveiled this morning to much fanfare. In attendance at today's launch were 12 young artists, each of whom is differently abled. Their work is showcased in every month of the calendar, beginning with January, which is depicted by 5-year-old Jace Yearwood. News 5 was at the event where the calendar, published by McNabb Designs, was officially introduced, and the creators were acknowledged for the individual contributions.
I take this great honor and pleasure to stand here and read the bios of our artists who have made the 2020 calendar possible. I will read the bio, then I will ask the child and the parent to come and receive their calendar. J.S. Yearwood. At 5 years old, J.S. attends preschool. He is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and mixed receptive expressive language condition. He spends his free time listening to music while trying to imitate them. J.S. is a brave and loving child. He will forever be a blessing.
And that's the news. Tune in for night 3 of Gimme 5 right here on Channel 5. And remember, when your phone rings, don't say hello, say Gimme 5. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, good night.